baseball company, this is Caffeine Curveballs.
Hey,
What up, dude?
what's up, man? How you been?
Not too shabby. How about you guys?
Been doing all right. Off season's going
Rehab.
day by day. You know how it is.
Yeah, rehab. Yeah, I felt that. I was doing that the last 4 years. So finally,
Oh yeah.
it's to get out of it for once.
Oh yeah.
How's this off season going for you? Like, what you been up to? What's the
Not
attack
too
plan?
shabby. Living out in Arizona still. I mean, best place on earth. I don't think I'll ever leave here, but I've been working with Dean over at Terra Sports and just doing stuff day by day. It's been pretty nice.
How's that new facility? They just moved, right? Because that was X2, obviously. But how's that new spot?
It's nice. I mean, it's a little out of the ways. It's in like near Deer Valley, but like location's pretty nice. It's a bigger facility. You don't have like the club teams coming in there to do like the random little lessons and hitting stuff. So like it's all theirs. So it's pretty nice. Not to mention now there's TrackMan and a motion capture in there too. So it's pretty nice.
A mocap in there now. That's kind of sick.
Yeah.
That's I remember training out there, and like you said, like the youth teams coming in, like you had to be out of there before T-Rex is in there.
Oh, without a doubt. If you weren't, it was like good luck. Like you weren't getting
Yeah.
anything done. All the high school kids are in there training now, and it's like, okay, I should probably get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, yeah, definitely. But kind of just to open this up, something I've wanted to like touch on, I guess, is like how similar mine and your backgrounds are with like where we've played. Because I know like you were a Texas JUCO guy being at San Jack, and then I went to Howard.
Okay.
But I think you're a little bit older than me, so it was one of those things too. And it's like, hey, we got to go first. I think you guys always held a tournament at the beginning of the year when everybody would go play at your guys' place. And it was one of those things too, like rolling up. It's like, oh shit, we got to play. All right, we're gonna see either like 100 or like everybody's gonna hit the ball 500 feet. And I know you kind of were on one of the teams. I think you like with like Rutledge, Pasco, you, and then another guy, whoever the lefty was. I remember was just like, oh fuck, we do not want to play these guys like this. Like, you know what I mean? Though it's like the first like big bad JUCO, and then you roll up in San Jack, and then for the people that don't know, Mac included, when you look at the outfield wall, it's like Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit, Brandon Belt. It's just all like ex big leaguers that like like by name. It's not just guys that maybe did like a one and done stint in the show. It's like these are career guys, and it's like, oh shit, like it's on today. So I mean, like if you got any like things you want to say, I guess kind of about your background, like at San Jack, and kind of your journey about it.
Well, what's funny was I was committed to North Carolina in high school, and I was kind of a kid that was a little bit of a late bloomer, like came into the recruiting show kind of junior year, summer going in the senior year. And I was thankfully recruited enough to go to North Carolina, except one little thing. ACT score had to be a certain thing. And until after I hurt my elbow my senior year, that was when I got my ACT score up. And at that point, they were like, yeah, we can't honor this anymore. So it was kind of like a blessing in disguise because I ended up going to San Jack. And I mean, they had just came in second place in 2017 after like one of the best Japola junior college teams of all time. I think they had like 13 draft picks that year. And then just going to San Jack, I think that year we had 7 guys get drafted, 10 guys went to the SEC after that. And then not to mention too, like we're playing guys at McLennan. I know they had a second rounder that year. It was a catcher that could just casually throw 100 off the mound. Like good arms at this school, good arms at that school. Like it was ridiculous. So it was like, it was still like, it felt like we were like still playing like Power 5 baseball, but it was in junior college. And it like not many people like understood, like, because I think it's a little bit different now compared to like now you have the transfer portal. No one wants to go JUCO. At San Jack, every single kid was either one committed to a Division I school or was a bounce back. So it was like everyone had at least like some sort of like experience with a Division I. But it was insane. I think I even saw something on Twitter or X, whatever the hell you want to call it now. Like there's been more World Series appearances from dudes that went to San Jack. Obviously, this is from Roger Clemens and Andy Pettit, like since 2000, more than any other school ever. And like most people don't know, Pettit went to San Jack for 1 year, I think, then got drafted. And Clemens went there for 2 years. He went there more than his 1 year at Texas. So like a lot of people didn't realize like the legends that go there. And there's even guys now that are like up and down a little bit that even went to San Jack. So I mean, it was probably the best thing ever. Like actually one of my biggest regrets was not staying there 2 years compared to only going there for one. But no, I loved it there. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, because that's one of the things too is like every like you touched on McLennan. Like McLennan is dope. Like you guys were pretty equal, at least when I was there, where it's like you don't know everybody's going to be good. Like all those blue bloods are going to be really good, and then even Weatherford, you roll up to play Weatherford. They had the nicest stadium as far as like seating, and then you look up and it's like, wait, this junior college is a stadium back, man. And this was
Yeah.
it's like, wait, why do they have this? You turn around, look at their scoreboard, and it's like Arietta and then like four other guys, and it's like Arietta did the same thing where he went like I think it was like 2 at Weatherford and then TCU or something like that. But it's like this shit like it runs deep, which is like
Really
because
does.
nobody like at least because like I'm from Michigan, so is Max, but it's like the connotation about junior college is like, oh, if you go to junior college, like you suck or you're dumb or like there's always just like a negative thing wrapped around it. But then it's like once you're in it, it's like this is real. Like
Oh yeah.
this is better than like going and playing like mid major or like anything else. Like it's a dogfight every single weekend.
Like not to mention too, like I just remember our team, like we were pre-ranked number 1 in the country that year, and it was a fall game. We're beating teams in like a 15 inning game, 47-2. And like we're playing against like Galveston. I don't think we played Weatherford that year, but I think like we beat up on McLennan that year in the fall. And it was like we legitimately thought we weren't going to lose a game with how much talent we had. Like it was unreal. And like even I can remember a couple scouts I spoke to said, I'm not gonna lie, I think you guys win the Big 12 this year. Like I don't know if that's gonna happen now, like seeing what I've seen in Division I baseball, but like we definitely had some talent and a lot of other teams did too, which was just insane. Like I don't get how like anyone hates on the junior college route just because it did so much for me and it's done a lot for a lot of other guys. Like I wish they made Last Chance U about college baseball and not football, so that way people could see more like into the baseball side because it's awesome.
No, yeah. A lobby for it at Howard, but I don't think that it never like got like pushed through too much. But that would have been so cool is if they showed the kind of thing, just because it's like even just like the ragtag like degenerates that you find in junior college baseball, like they're everywhere, everybody, like it don't matter. It would have been like pretty quality stuff to watch.
Oh yeah. Oh, it would have been awesome.
It's
Without
funny
a
though,
doubt.
we were talking about that. You kind of touched on it there a few times. We talked about that in a podcast, an episode or two ago. Trey, was it with Michael or with Drew about the JUCO circuit and how that's going to evolve with the transfer portal?
I think both of them lightly touched on it, but I think Drew did more of the X's and O's about it.
Just because, like with NIL and stuff like that, guys are going to commit to mid majors or even to big schools. They're going to have that first year where we all know we go to the big school, we don't play, and then we transfer out or for whatever circumstance happens. Um, you end up the JUCO route's going to kind of get bypassed now just because of the NIL presence. Guys are going to pick the mid major to kind of bounce back there before eventually returning again to D1 just because we don't have the limits or anything on that. It's going to be it's a weird thing because like we all grew up with the evolution of JUCO baseball. It had its peak for like probably 4 to 6 years, and now or maybe even 8. But now it's like we're missing such a great part of college baseball and what made the range of college baseball so great for so long. It's a wild transformation, and I'm kind of jealous that both of you guys got to be part of it.
I just wish it wasn't more so like kind of stay on that topic. Like I think NIL is amazing and whatnot. Like I think like if guys are like should be getting paid for their image, but it's like the portal, like there's no excuse for why all Americans should be transferring from like the ACC to like another school in the ACC or like going from
Right.
like a big time school in the SEC to another school in the SEC. It's like stay with the commitment that you had. Like you're already an All American. You're probably going to get drafted in the first round. Like I feel like there's no excuse to be just bouncing around just to try to just like I don't know what the reasons are, but it's like I remember like I made a commitment to Missouri. I'm staying here till I graduate. Like I don't get like how some other guys like the loyalty is just out of it. I hate that.
It's a series of 1 year commitments now, right? And that's really sad to see. But you kind of just touched on it there. But you said you wish you'd spent 2 years at San Jack instead of one, right? talk about your time at big schools relative to because I know you played at Missouri, you played a little bit at Texas A&M. Talk about the time there versus your time at San Jack. What were the differences? What were things you liked, dislike? Just kind of as a starter, just talk about your time at those two schools.
So
This episode is presented by Rake Baseball Company. If you want the best apparel within the game of baseball, you need to head over to rakebaseballcompany.com and use code CURVE15 to get 15% off. Rake Baseball Company has it all. They have different designs, they have different colors for different teams, and they even offer various apparel for different positions on the field. I personally have worked with Rake Baseball Company on multiple occasions now, and the owner is always taking care of me. So again, do yourselves a favor. Head on over to rakebaseballcompany.com and use code CURVE15 for 15% off. Again, that's CURVE15 for 15% off.
Missouri, I'm gonna be straight up forward. Like, that's not an SEC school. We're like, and I'm gonna sound so like privileged and whatnot, but it's like,
Sure.
we didn't charter flight. We had the worst travel. Weather was bad. Like, and I mean, I sound so spoiled. Like, we didn't have the best spreads, but I mean, like, compared to guys that go to D2 or even in JUCO, I remember eating McDonald's before games. Like, it wasn't a big deal. But then when you hear guys at like LSU, like, oh yeah, we charter everywhere. Or
Yeah.
like we're getting back at 7:00 on Sunday nights. Meanwhile, we get back at 3 a.m. And like, not to mention too, like at those big boy schools, like some coaches are true to their word, how they are in recruiting. And then some coaches are just like farthest from the truth. And that's something like I wish I did more research and ask guys like, before I went to Mizzou, be like, hey, how do you like the head coach? Like, are they true with everything they say? And like, because you're going to get a little bit of mix from everyone. Some guys are going to be like, oh, they're the best. Some guys are going to be like, stay away from here. Like, I try to be like more neutral when like guys ask me in those positions, because I did like a couple coaches there, but at the same time, we weren't a winning school. We were struggling. Like, we had really bad conditions that they never told us about. And I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. Like, I'm thankful I went to Missouri just because I have some really good friends from there that I've made, like some lifelong friends, but it's just from going from there to Texas A&M, I saw what a real SEC school does. A real school that invests money into the program, a school where a coach is extremely disciplined with all the players. There's certain things, like everything's for a reason. Where it felt like Missouri, it was like, we just did stuff to do stuff. And it's like, what are we doing?
It just
Yeah.
didn't mean more in Missouri, right?
No, yeah, it did not mean more, even though that phrase came from a dude that went to Mizzou, oddly enough.
Yeah, I've been sitting on that your whole thing. I was sitting on just to rip that.
Oh, I have to. But like, it didn't feel like you played in the SEC at Missouri compared to A&M. It was airports 5 minutes away from the field. You'd get done with the game on Sunday at 3. You're back like before 5:00. Like, it was way better conditions. And that's not the knock on the program itself. Like, there was a lot of other stuff to go within. Like, the budget wasn't very great, but it was just like, there's different, like, that's the stuff within college baseball. If like you're an SEC guy, like, you know that there's certain schools that have better conditions than other. Like, the fact that we had to tie a game, oddly, against Texas A&M my sophomore year because we had to go catch a flight in Houston, compared to the other schools that have charter flights and whatnot. Like, we could have played that extra inning game for as long until there's a winner and a loser. Like, that's the kind of stuff I mean. Or where we had to fly out half of our team in the middle of a game when we're playing at the Shriners Classic in Houston because we couldn't get everyone on the same flight. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's kind of just like, yeah, we're in the SEC, but we're not in the SEC.
No, yeah, that definitely makes sense. But like, something I want to know too with you is like, so the timeline of when you're at Missouri A&M, where are you at like with your injury process? Because I know Dean did a really good job of, I guess, like highlighting you or using you, I guess, on social media as kind of like his like poster, not like a poster boy, but like just did a really good job of like highlighting where you're at, what you're doing, because you were a known name. And it's like, because for me personally, it was like when I was in junior college, I think you were 2 years older than me or 3. So it was kind of one of those things. It's like, okay, this guy's a back end reliever, went to a junior college in Texas. And it's like, okay, if I want to go to a Missouri or an SEC or a primetime school, like I got to do what this guy does. So that was one of those things. It's like, okay, I can use you as a benchmark. You know what I mean? Just as far as like, you're where like I would want to be, you know what I'm saying? You're upper nines at touching 100, whatever it is. So where were you at, I guess, in your injury timeline, I guess, when you're going through like San Jack, Mizzou, and then A&M? Like, how does that fall in?
So it starts with in 2017, I get hurt my senior year of high school. Couldn't finish out half the season, hence why I didn't go to UNC. Did all my rehab at San Jack the fall, so I didn't throw in one fall game. And then they just kind of threw me into the fire when I was ready for the spring. It was more of like a sink or die. Like my second outing was against McLennan in a 1-0 game in the 9th inning. Like, and at the time, like I didn't know any better. I just pitched. And ultimately, like elbow held together through a very long time throughout that 2018 season. 2019, get to Mizzou. Things are going great. Didn't have a great year there. That's a whole nother backstory. Fall of 2019, I can remember it was right after the fall season ended. I threw just like a touch and feel off the mound just because, I was told I didn't throw enough strikes. So what am I doing? I'm throwing as hard as I can every single day just to try to figure it out. I throw a pitch, my entire elbow goes numb. Ends up nothing came out of that, but then 2 months later, I threw a breaking ball in an inter squad and my elbow just, I felt a pop and continued to still pitch throughout the 2020 season. I remember I had a 10-mile-an-hour decrease in velocity within about a week. Like I was riding the high of like the beginning of the season, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, now we're throwing in games in Missouri when it's 35 degrees and there's no adrenaline. We're not playing against like Big 12 schools and these big like showcase tournaments or whatever. And then all of a sudden, pandemic hits. It's kind of a blessing in disguise because I knew I was going to blow out that season. Got a PRP that summer. And you know what happens with PRPs and elbow, they result in Tommy Johns about 90% of the time. So I had TJ in January of 2021. Did not pitch that entire season. Honestly, had a really bad rehab. Like, couldn't tell you why. I was hurting week 2 of throwing. Like, I'm throwing 60 feet, 50 miles an hour. And I'm like, why is my elbow killing me? Couldn't straighten my arm out half the time. Guys at A&M were telling me like, hey, like you need to throw hard. Like I had my head coach come out to me in the middle of like a throwing session in the middle of the fall, be like, dude, you're 7 months out. You should be off the mound, almost ready to throw to hitters. And it just kind of like hit me like right here a little bit, just like inside. I was just like, man, like just attacked me for my character and like just for something like he had no idea how I felt. And I tried to push through that and then ultimately had to get another Tommy John at 14 months out. So, and I found out that was a surgical failure, the first one. But that was kind of like the whole timeline of like through 1 inning at A&M, through 8 innings in 2020 with a torn elbow, didn't throw it all in 2021. So it was kind of a rough stretch there from like fall of 2019 to like the summer.
How did you
Holy
handle that
shit.
mentally? Because that sounds really hard, honestly. Like you just talked about, I mean, 14, 18 months where you're really not able to do much. People expect you to do stuff, and then you end up getting another surgery. How do you handle that mentally?
So, well, it actually was a relief when, like usually a Tommy John takes like 45 minutes to an hour. My second one was 5 hours long. Like they found
Holy
out,
cow.
like, yeah. So like I couldn't straighten out my elbow at all during that rehab process. Like it was normal to be like, I think I was 165 degrees in extension. So in like usually 180 is perfect. And I was hyperextended before, but besides the point, but like I was always hurting. And like, I just remember just like each night, like crying to myself, like, man, this sucks. I have no idea what's wrong. And then when I found out after surgery, when they're like, hey, there was a lot of scar tissue issues, whoever did your previous surgery kind of messed it up. And it kind of like a relief. I was like, oh, thank goodness. Cause like I was doing everything. Like my sleep was in check. Nutrition was in check. Like throwing, like, oh, my recovery was in check. My strength was pretty good. Like I made sure everything was good. But by the time when it came to throwing a baseball, like I could barely throw 20 throws without just a knife through my elbow.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's like a thing too. And it's like, because I'm going through the rehab process as well, but like mine's labrum. But like it all starts with like, I don't remember who said it, but I heard it from somebody. But it was like, it's got to be like good surgeon, good PT, good athlete, good rehab program, and then just consistency. It's like you have to go 5 for 5. Like if you want to come back as good or better than what you were, it's like you got to go 5 for 5. Unless you're just a freak where you already had it beforehand. Cause it's like if one of those things is out of whack, it's like you're gambling at that point. So like if you start already with a bad surgery, like I couldn't imagine like being where I'm at, where it's like, hey, if one of the anchors in my shoulder slips and I don't know until you're like in your scenario where it's like 2 weeks into throwing, I'm in pain. It's like you kind of got to shelf it at that point. You know what I mean? From you being through it, it's like you're already out of the race.
Yeah, no, it was like it made no sense because I'm like, I will admit, like when I had my surgery, Missouri did an awful job of like they didn't provide me a PT for about the first 8 weeks. Like I'm kind of just doing stuff on my own. They asked me like, hey, like what the hell am I supposed to be doing? And like that's partially on my fault too, because I should have taken advantage of, hey, it's still kind of COVID. Like I wasn't allowed in the dugout that season. Like knowing what I know now, and this is what I did at A&M, like I would want to choose my surgeon, not have them choose it, and then choose where I go to PT. And that's exactly what I did for my second time around. I think I saw like 3 or 4 different surgeons. I liked Conway the best out in Houston, heard great things about him. And then I picked out my PT back here in Arizona before I even had the surgery. And like, I really didn't care. Like I had 8 coaches at A&M wanted me to stay and possibly do a 6th year there. And I was just like, you do realize I'm not going to be ready for the season because I know they would have rushed me throughout my rehab process because they just would have wanted me for that 1 year. And that was like the big thing of like, I'm just going to go home. I'm going to do my rehab. So it's actually funny. Like you'll never find me on an A&M roster because they took me off like right after my surgery when I went home, but I am in a box score there. So I do have proof that I played there, but it's, but I want to do things my way. And that was the ultimate way I did it. And I went to a PT for about 10 months. And then after that, when I felt like I was at a good spot, I started seeing Dean for my rest of my like return to throw.
Because
That
where
was
in
gonna
the
be that was kind of gonna be my follow up in terms of when you met Dean. I will say A&M is on your baseball reference, so it counts. You were there. There's proof. Um, but so you said you had a PT in Arizona. I'm guessing that is a different person from Dean, or was Dean kind of your PT guy, or was he really just your return to throw? And talk about how like his progress his process and return to throw differs from the next guy.
So I really don't want to shout out the PT I went to out here because he is a known guy. He worked in an organization. His dad's a pretty big guy, but I'm just not going to show you. He's like really good at his job, but I went to him for like 8 to like 10 months. Like he did a really good job with the PT. Like I'll give him 2 things. He's really good at physical therapy for Tommy Johns, and his return to throw for like until you get to the mound is pretty good. Like I'll give him that. Like, as a human being and everything else, like
where's this going to turn?
Yeah, and so I'm at a point where I'm throwing off the mound. My breaking ball's dog shit. Like my arm feels great, thankfully, but like I feel like I'm out of tune. He's not a pitching guy, and I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, like I'm playing catch 6 times a week. I'm up to like 93 right now, and like 9.5 months out, feeling pretty good. I'm at the point where I need to like see somebody. And Dean had reached out like a couple weeks prior because I was actually going to reach out to him when he was still working at Driveline and be like, hey, can I come with you at Driveline? But he kind of beat me to it and said, hey, I'm doing my own thing. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I'm in. And that's kind of where he took over the program from there. And from like, I think month like 9.5, possibly around there until I signed with the Phillies. And I still work with him I still work with him now.
I feel like he's always been one of the smarter guys to come from Driveline. Obviously, they have a long list of dudes who are very, very intelligent, but I feel like Dean is near the top of that list in terms of his perspective on the game, his creativity, his diligence, how thorough he is with the thought process, and so on. So, I mean, dude, I couldn't think of a better Resource for you. I know Trey has reached out. I've talked to Dean a few times, and I've been nothing but impressed in terms of his viewpoint on the game, his viewpoint on pitching specifically too.
Like it's pretty impressive. Like, cause we broke a lot of things down when I went with him and just like the keys of like the different parts of the throwing program that I was going to. Cause like his throwing program for me now is completely different for when I was like 9.5 months out. And like it's pretty cool because he's learned so much from his failures and like someone that struggled so much with the elbow issues. Like I think me and him combined for 7 total elbow surgeries, which is nuts, but like he's able to learn from a lot of the stuff. And like, whether if it's working on T-spine extension or, hey, like let's probably not throw the gray ball anymore for you just because I don't think it's gonna be good for the benefit for you. Like that's kind of like the stuff I like from him just because he's learned so much from his failures. And I feel like he's helped out a lot of athletes from it, including myself.
So yeah, like another thing I'm curious about too, because you touched on it too when you started working with Dean. I think you said it like 9 months. So at what month of the 3rd surgery post-op did you sign with the Phillies? And then did you also have like any pressure, like because you're going through like a rehab where it's like, okay, you want to become yourself again, but then it's like you're chasing a job. So like,
Mhm.
how did you deal with the pressure of like, hey, like I'm rehabbing, but also like trying to showcase, like I need it. I'm doing like these tryouts and stuff with you out there. So how was like the balance of that? Because it is two very, very different things.
So, and I like the point you bring up on that, because I remember my first surgery. Like, I remember I threw a ball 100%, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready. Like, they told me I'm ready. It's like, not with Dean. Like, I remember the throwing program. Like, there was a day I think I hit 99 or 98.8 or something, 99, whatever you want to call it. And
I tweeted that out.
yeah, and I was like 10
Yeah.
and a month, 10 and a half months out. And there happened to be someone at the facility that day that just, I think his son was there, and he's a scout for one of the teams. And like, they immediately reached out to my agent, like, hey, can like this dude like throw again next week? And I was like, texted Dean that, and Dean's like, you do realize you are not ready to throw in a game. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But so, I mean, it kind of wasn't like a pressure thing like that. And I didn't know at the time I was draft eligible last year, like being 24. I was draft eligible, so I couldn't have even signed with the team until after the draft. And like got to a point where when I was ready I was throwing 3 bullpens a week. I think I averaged 95 Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Breaking ball was sharp, was throwing enough strikes. And that was kind of when like Dean said, hey, let your agent know that you're ready and teams are going to be interested. So I wasn't trying to like race to a point, because it was more of like, it's on my time. Like, I don't want to have to be ready for anything. Like, if the time's right, the time's right. And I think that was kind of the difference between like my first rehab and my second one. Because my first one, I was like, I got to be ready for February. And that was like 13 months out. And ultimately I blew out again. So I was just more so on my time, just going through what I thought was right.
Was that pre or post draft that you were ready?
I was ready right around draft time. Like, it was about like the week of the draft. And my agent said, wait a couple weeks till the draft will settle out, and then we'll have you throw for
Gotcha.
teams. Mhm.
Gotcha. How have you liked the Phillies so far? Have you gotten a chance to work with our guy, Riley McCauley, at all?
Don't think so, no.
Damn. I know. Well, that's actually a good thing, because Trey, he's rehab coordinator, right?
I believe he's something to do with rehab.
So yeah, don't work with Riley.
Yeah, don't
Don't
ever
work with
go in
Riley.
rehab
He's a
again.
great
Yeah,
dude. Don't work
you've
with
done
him.
you've done your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. No shit. How was your experience though? This was your first year. What'd you think?
I loved it. I mean, like, you
You
definitely
guys charter
know, like,
flights?
no, this isn't the SEC anymore. I'm not expecting that for a while. I'm going back to the junior college ways of, all right, let's have bus rides in the middle of the night from going from Laredo, Texas to Houston. But no, I loved it. I mean, they let us have a lot of freedom. Like, when I was in low A, the pitching coach there preached, hey, down the dick, like throw your shit down the dick, let the hitters decide if your stuff's good or not. And I mean, that's perfect for me compared to like, let's spot stuff up. No, I'm throwing it down the middle. If the hitters are going to hit it, they're going to hit it. Like, let me just showcase my stuff. Let me get hitters out. Let me throw through the catcher's glove. Like, so I liked it a lot. They feed us well. Living conditions were well. Like, I have zero complaints at all from them.
Was it playing at the? I guess you talked about how your pitching coach was like, "Hey, down the dick." From an org standpoint, are they preaching like KPIs to you guys all the time? Like, K percentage, K to walk, chase, all that fun stuff.
I mean, I possibly could be, but he just more kept it simplified. So, I mean,
That's awesome.
yeah. So like, I'm not really like, I only threw like a 3 outings. So I don't have much sample size, but the fact like, it was more like, hey, like, throw your stuff down the middle, let it play. More than likely,
Yeah.
it's not going to be down the middle. It's going to be somewhere else, but like, let the hitters decide if your stuff's good or not. So like, they wasn't too big into like numbers this, numbers that. It was more so like, just attack hitters. Like, I know like their biggest thing was like, and this is like almost like a college aspect of like, walks are bad, which they are, but it wasn't like, hey, you need to be having this certain swing and misses with this pitch against this type of hitter when it's raining outside. Like, it didn't seem like that.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where I've had the most success in minor league baseball, is when I'm just playing the game to play the game, right?
Mhm.
Where I'm just throwing my stuff to throw strikes and let hitters decide if they're going to hit it or not. That's where I've had the most success. When I go out there and I try to like, I'm trying to create chase, or I'm trying to throw the swing and miss pitch in a 2-strike count, or even early on in counts, that's where I put myself in bad situations. I end up with non-competitive misses, and then it just turns into a carousel, and I just end up walking everybody. But when you're going out there for like just to play the game for what it is, that shit just kind of happens organically. And that's honestly, that's probably the best part about it. Analytics are great, and believe me, I'm a huge believer in them. But I don't think the analytics were derived from guys trying to achieve said analytics, if that makes sense. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like guys have the dog in them, and analytics like don't give like guys don't care what the analytics said. If you're gonna get hitters out, you're gonna get hitters out. And like for
Right.
me, I feel like I've transitioned like my mindset from like, all right, like what was like how is my results oriented? Like is the more of like how many pitches did I execute? Like for me right now, I think my goal for each season is right around like 60% pitches executed because I'm going to get away with some that aren't executed. There's
Sure.
going to be some that I execute that the hitters are going to hit because like ultimately like even though hitters are the dumbest athletes on the planet because if you hit 300 you're a Hall of Famer, but like they can still get you a lot of times. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, like they're the dumbest hitter, they're the dumbest people on the planet, but that's also the hardest thing to do in all sports. So like I can get away with a lot of stuff that like I miss down the middle that I'm not trying to and get an out with it. There's also times that I can throw a breaking ball and some 18-year-old Dominican can put it over 400 feet dead center field. So like it is what it is. Like I just go more so like just how many did I execute? If I execute to my standard, that's all I care about. Because at the end of the day, I know if I execute pitches more than I don't execute pitches, I'm going to be where I need to be.
That's probably the best way to put it. And I will say it certainly feels like those guys are successful more than 30% of the time sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like some dudes are like just automatic knocks at times. And that's it's wild because when you look at the big picture, it's 3 out of 10. But man, sometimes it feels like those dudes are going 7 for 10.
Yeah, I mean, now it's with the 6-game series. There's some dudes you just don't get out in those series at all. And it's like this dude comes up to bat and it's like, shit, here we go again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or if it's like, I mean, how we were in low A, but it was like play the 3 closest teams probably 70% of the time. So it's like, hey, like this guy might only like he only has our number. So every time you see this one guy, it's like he's tearing us up all night long the entire week. And then it's like he might go play against X team and then like suck. But then like every time you see this one dude, it's like scoreboard has him hitting 240, but like
Yeah.
it's not the split against us. Like he's probably hitting 850 against us with 10 pumps. Like it's like no, that's exactly too. And it, like I feel like a lot of people don't understand the dimensions when you go and play at these different fields and like the different leagues. So like, for example, with you guys with the Phillies, it's like you're low A's in Florida. So it's like the ball ain't gonna fly as much as it is if you go play in like the Texas League, if you're playing like as you would know, like in Midland, like in Texas, it's like you know what I mean? It's you're not like you're just like inflating numbers or deflating numbers. So it's like, or if it's like, hey, it's 280 and right here, and then I throw a sweeper down and away to a righty, he goes ass out and hits it 282 over the fence. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Part
like,
of it.
this ain't good. Like, damn.
Well, the set of guys in the Pioneer League that are like, dude, I shoved this year and I had a 6.5 ERA.
I saw it, dude. One year I saw the league leader there was like a 4.7.
It's nuts.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That was how, like, especially too at Howard, like it was a thing too. Like I remember I was on the phone with some school and they were like, yeah, when we recruit guys, it's like, or even in our pitchers meeting, like we had our number one my second year who went to the Braves. I think he had like a 5 right on the dot. And but if you look at anybody else, like you compare it to like a Sanjak or like any of those East Side schools, it's like, oh, that guy's got like a 2.5. But then like you come over to West Texas and you go watch BP and you're like, okay, I see why he's got a 5 because everybody's hitting 5. Like your 10th guy off the bench is hitting 500-foot jimmies, and you're like, okay, like this is probably why.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it was in Grand Junction in the World Series. Like I remember I gave up a backside pump and it's 302 to left, and I think the ball was hit 320. Not to mention it's an elevation in Colorado, but batting practice there was 430 dead center, 400 in the gaps, 375 down the lines, like at this practice field, and then we made it look like a little league park in batting practice. Like it's unfair, it really is.
Yeah, it's like the left fielder runs in 20 steps because he thinks it's an infield pop out, and it's like, oh, okay, oh wow, and then it just goes 40 feet over, and you're just like. It's like I don't like it was probably hit 80 miles an hour off the bat at like 45, and you're just like you know, like there's nothing you can do. Like it's so comical that you got that way.
Like it's just like I just jammed you on a fastball and it went over the left field fence. Because at least now it's like that. I guess I'm only facing against dudes with wood bats, but in college I saw some bad swings and I'm like, how the hell is this ball getting out? Like what in the world?
No, 100%.
How was so you just brought up college again. How was the lineup like? How was the lineup depth SEC to low A? Because I try to tell people that high A for me personally, and granted I never played in the SEC. I played D2 ball for 4 years, but like try to tell people that high A is like the upper echelon of the SEC. But I don't know what it's like in low A. I can imagine that if you were to look back on your time in the SEC, the lineups are probably how many hitters deep? 5, maybe 6?
I mean, I remember some 9 holes that were still hitting like 280 on the year with like 6 or 7 pumps, which was pretty good. I mean, it all depends just because like some teams, I know at A&M, I think we led majority of like the SEC in hitting, and like we were like our top 6 was like good luck getting one of these guys out. Like we were averaging like 10 to 11 runs a game. Pitching staff also let up about like 8 to like 10 runs a game, so it was always close. But I mean, I think the metal bats definitely has like a play in it, because I threw in the Cape, which was like a notorious summer ball league for most people know, and it's like that's definitely a pitcher's league, and like it's supposed to be some of the best hitters in the country. So I can't really say just because like I only had just a short experience in low A, but I don't want to say that SEC hitters are better than low A, but I definitely think the metal bats have a little bit to deal with it, just because I saw some ass out swings, dude, like curveballs on the outside that are pulled over left field for a 370-foot homer. It's like, I don't know if I'm buying that.
I think you'd be far fetched to say the SEC is better just from an age standpoint, right? Like, I think when you look at it logistically, you talk like you mentioned earlier, just in passing, where it's like an 18-year-old Dominican might just slap this 285 to the right side. There are a lot of 18-year-olds in low A as it is, so I don't think it's far fetched to say the SEC is better. So I guess that's kind of the point. I don't think it's far fetched to say that at all. Just from an age standpoint, like those kids are going through college ball and pro ball.
Yeah, not to
Right.
mention like there's more discipline too, like in college, and like again, at
Yeah.
least in pro ball, like you might like guys will have a spot, but like they're not going to play every single game. Like at A&M, I think 6 guys started like the entire year. Like our catcher, I think caught 90% of games. Like they just did not care. Like he was the best option they had. Like he's going to catch, and I think that's like kind of like the difference. Like I feel like pro ball, the lineup changes up a lot compared to like college. Like who's ever hot is playing. We're putting the best 9 guys out here, regardless of anything.
Yeah,
I can attest to that as well. Go ahead, Trey.
But yeah, no, I feel that. I played against when I was because I played at Lipscomb. I was at Howard for 2, and then Lipscomb for 1 in 22. And then so all of our midweeks being in Tennessee were against SEC schools, so we got to play when Tennessee was number 1 at the time, and it was the year where they had like 4 guys going the first 2, or I think it was probably more, but like it was Joyce's year too. So like we're show up to I think it's Lindsey Nelson, show up there. We put up like 1 in the first, and then it was their second rounder, I think, was on the mound coming back from rehab start. They're like, yeah, he's going to be like last year was 96, 98 is the guy. Like this is his first month and a half in the year. So he's on the mound, like warming up 90, 92. I'm like, all right, like fuck, maybe we got a shot because like we weren't bad, but it was a midweek. So it's like we weren't like we're not throwing the A team. We're playing the A team right now. So it's like, all right, like we put up 1 first pitch on the fucking scoreboard is like 97. And I'm like, oh shit, we're in for it. And then like that whole lineup too, I think a lot of those guys made it to at least Double A this year, at least played in the fall league. And it's like, okay, this guy goes 2 innings, they go to like stuff lefty the third, and all of a sudden we start hearing like pow, pow, pow in the bullpen. We look down and go to Joyce in the 4th. He punches the fucking side. And we're just like, oh shit. And it's like a testament to it too, is like I think I came in the 8th because like I didn't throw midweek bullpens. It was like, hey, up or down in the midweek, like, hey, just go get your inning. I think I walked like 3 and then like punched 2, but then gave up like 1 run with bases loaded. I'm like, against this fucking team, like, oh, dude, we'll take that to the bank.
Oh yeah,
Because dude, it was like it was like one of those things too. It's like they like again, majority of that lineup and the arms that we saw that day got to at least I think IA this year, which isn't easy in 1 year. I mean, or whoever you want, just for the amount of guys at that percentage to make that jump. But it's just like holy shit, like that was probably the best team and like lineup that I've faced in the last 2 years, however long it's been. And it's like, I mean, like again to your point though, like it varies though, because it's like all those guys were playing 85%. And it's like, plus the arms too were just unbelievably gross.
Yeah, I mean, that Tennessee team was also just another story. Like, they forgot how to lose games at one point. And, like, I don't know what Tony V's cooking up over there, but he's doing it right because they are, like, it seems like every year they're just knocking on the door to Omaha or they're going to Omaha. But yeah, it's actually like midweeks are like kind of funny just because like I've even seen like some random like dudes like throwing like upper 90s, like touching hundreds from like Lamar or like some random schools in Texas. And it's like, why the hell are these dudes throwing midweeks? And I mean, I can attest, I was also that dude in Missouri my sophomore year. Like I can remember I would come into games up 11-0 and I hadn't thrown in 2 weeks because I was also dealing with the yips at the time. And I'd come out of a game throwing like 97, 98. And it's like, why the fuck's this dude throwing on a midweek right now and not like in the weekend? So like I can kind of attest because I was definitely like one of those guys. I call myself like a midweek All-American my sophomore year because I only threw in midweeks.
Boy.
Yeah.
Boy.
No, dude,
You,
I feel that.
Go ahead, Dre.
No, but I feel that though, because it was like, so like being at Lipscomb, like it was weird though, because it was like, is it close, kind of like the same role as you though? Like it was weird because it was like, kind of I earned a job pretty early on, but then it was just like, hey, like you're only gonna go in on the weekend if you're tie her up. Like that's it. If we're down one and we don't tie it in the eighth, like don't even get hot. Like we'll throw somebody else. So it was like I called it like being like the human golf cart, essentially, where it's like I can stop, hold a hole, but if you tell me to go like 100 miles an hour for like 50 pitches or like more, it's like I ain't got it in me. So it was at the point where it'd be like Friday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But then it was always just like, hey man, like you got to work on command too. So like the best way to do it is like just go pitch in the game. So like there'd be games too where it's like those midweeks, like we're down by 10 and I'm out there like, let's just throw the shit. I'm just going to get punchy. He's like we can't really, like I can't score any runs. So it's like, let's try to at least have some fun with it. But then like the funny thing with what you're saying in your situation where like you came out just throwing cheese. I think like I remember our first out of conference SEC out of conference weekend. I think it was week 3 of my 1 year at Lipscomb. We're playing at Georgia. Like we go up 2 against like their Friday guy. We're like everybody's pumped, like we might have a shot, and then we just blow the hell out of it. We go like down by it. We lose by 6 Friday. Same thing Saturday, and I'm sitting there like, all right, I know I'm gonna throw because we're about to burn through the whole bullpen. Same scenario. Like you go up early, blow it, and then it's like Sunday we're down by 5. Coach is like, hey, just go get your work in for the weekend. I go in like in a game down by 5 against Georgia, like punch the house, and I'm sitting there like pumped as hell. But then it's like, fuck, we just got murdered the whole weekend, and it's like I know like I was like I'm sitting there too, just like fuck, I got to go get my work in now that they're down 5, and it's like I know like all like the whole other team wants to go eat lunch too, like for this day game, like you know what I mean. So it's like yeah, it's cool, but like at the same time, it's like you've been on, you know what I mean, where everybody's been on both sides, where you're like, dude, I just want this fucking game to end. So I mean, like I definitely get that.
Like those college games went way too long too. That's the one thing I do love about the pitch clock. That was one nice thing. Games were under 2 hours, 15 minutes consistently. So nice.
I don't think anybody loves that more than we do.
Yeah.
Like
especially if you're not throwing, especially if you're not throwing that day.
How much the players love that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like the one thing I do hate, and I didn't realize it too, till I made my first outing my first outing was like, I didn't realize the clock in between innings was like how much you had. Like I remember someone said, yeah, just have like a good like pace out to the bullpen. And like, I'm full on sprinting because I'm like, I want my 8 pitches, only got 4 in, and I'm out of gas. Like I was like, I got ahead 0-2 on the first guy. And he calls time. I'm like, oh, thank God, I can take a breath. Like, because I also hadn't thrown the pitch clock, but I was also a guy that's like been used to high tempo, and I had to go back and look at it. It's like I'm coming set when there's 10 seconds on the clock, like literally getting the ball going, and I'm like, okay, we can take a couple more, but like that's like kind of like some stuff that like it kind of played a role into it, but I also just had no clue I was that quick.
I will say, to add on to the one thing that sucks about the pitch clock, when you get to like pitch 35 in an inning, you're like, dude, somebody's got to help me. Like this feels like aerobics at this point, high tempo or not. Like I was a guy who typically was around 20 seconds in between pitches before the clock. So obviously I had to up the pace a little bit. But man, there were some games, especially like we were middle of the summer in Peoria, Illinois, and it's just humid as shit. and I'm on pitch 31 in the inning, and I haven't even given up a run yet. And I burned one of our mound visits. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need 30 seconds, man. Like if we're gonna get this guy out, you're gonna need to give me a break.
Yeah, because like another point of it too is like, especially you have runners on with like the
Yeah.
whole like the throw over rules. It's like extremely mentally taxing. Not only like physically where you're going, but like mentally, it's like where you're worrying about the guy over there because then like your time to the plate's got to be good. If you do throw, like the throw got to be good, and then if you do end up going to the plate, like you got to throw a good pitch, and then it's like also it's like instead of 14 seconds, yeah, it's 18, but then I'm still worrying about like, okay, oh shit, how many times did I throw over? Like, oh, what move did I show this guy? Like all this other stuff. So you're sitting there just like on edge the whole time. So let's say like you give up another, like, and then now it's like first and second. Like, you know what I mean? There's just so much more like mentally besides like the whole like aerobic thing where you're just out there getting your cardio in.
Yeah.
Trying to get the ball off. So, and then it's like, oh shit, I also don't want to be a guy to get balled.
We now take a break from this interview to promote one of our supporting sponsors, Minor League Coffee. Started by two brothers currently in minor league baseball, Minor League Coffee has all of your coffee needs. We all know that coffee tastes better when you get the recipe right, all on your own. With all sorts of blends, Minor League Coffee has everything you need to get your day off to the best start possible. Head on over to minorleaguecoffee.com today and use code CURVE5 for 5% off. That's minorleaguecoffee.com, and with code CURVE5, you can get 5% off today. Now, back to the episode.
You know what I mean? 'Cause it does suck too if that's ever happened to you. Like I think I had in spring training where I got bald, and then it's just like you just don't like being that guy.
Right.
You know what I
You
mean?
can't.
Like, it's
Well,
just
you can't you can't get rid of the ball at one every time either with a guy on first. Right.
no,
Like, you
literally,
can't
and then
use
you got to
that
know
full
too that
18.
like the thing is too is like that nobody understands though is that like the runner is looking at the clock also. So like let's say it's 1 out, guy on first, and I throw a pitch at 3 seconds. So like the runner's like, okay, like this is like his time, and he's also within the box seeing how I did. So then it's like he's sitting there counting down on me because he knows I got to throw it by 0. So it's like and then so you're sitting there like praying that like you can at least tweak this guy's timing a little bit because otherwise it's green light all day.
It's almost not only is the time making it easier to steal bases, it's just like it almost felt easier at times for guys to steal second or steal third than second just because you had to go through the guy on second without pitch com, right? Like you had to go through the whole cadence with the guy on second. And by the time that you shake to a second sign, you're already at like 6 seconds. So that runner's taking off regardless. And it almost feels easier for guys to steal third than it does second sometimes.
Yeah, because they're just vaulting too. Like that's the thing too is you can get a way bigger vault on second than first.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I remember I brought up to like one of the catchers. I'm like, do you guys do like shakes and whatnot? Or like in college, he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, we're doing that because I'm not trying to like have you go through signs twice and miss the pitch I want. It's like, and he's like, okay, like add, subtract, like, because I know at Mizzou is like if you swiped up here, it was like add 1. If you did this, it was subtract 1. So it was like, I was like, you call it like a curveball or something. I'm like, no, we're subtracting fastball. Like that was kind of like at least the way that like I felt like it was a lot quicker that way instead of having to go through an entire new set of signs. So that was the
That's
one thing I
interesting.
did
I like that.
that was like not bad. It was like, okay, I didn't like that. I'm swiping here or I'm shaking off to the next pitch.
How did that go the first time you tried to communicate that to a guy who does not speak English?
I haven't yet to experience that yet, thankfully. I'm still trying to figure out how to say put the fucking glove down in Spanish because I had a couple guys and when I got to the complex, I was throwing. It's like the dude just setting up fastball. I'm like, dude, I throw sinkers, man. I need the glove down.
Yeah.
So like I'm still trying to figure out a little bit of my Spanish, que lo que, tranquilo kind of thing. Put the fucking glove down, like just anything like that.
No, I feel like that is like the people also don't understand though is like the language barrier on the mound too. Like it's really hard, especially when like most teams, I guess, like I don't know how you guys do it in your orgs, but like I think usually ours is like a 3-man. We're like we'll keep 3 catchers, they'll rotate playing in the field while also being behind the plate, and then it's kind of like they might be American, they might not, and it's kind of just like because we try to at least vary signs, I guess, of like what we just like trying to keep up the pace because you again like you can't run like the like pick up the 4th sign and then pick, you know what I mean? You can't run through those sets. So it's like it's got to be something like you said where it's like, hey, we got to go.
Mhm.
So I mean, it is difficult, and I feel like from the fan perspective too, or like anybody that doesn't pitch, it's like it's not the easiest thing to where like, and then if you do call a mound visit, where like you also hope somebody in the infield is either bilingual or can help assist you, because other than that, it's like you're just praying that or trying to convey something that they might not understand at all.
Yeah, like there comes to a point where I feel like there's sometimes I almost just want to signal, hey, fastball, and just throw it. Like I really don't care.
They're looking at pitch execution. They're not looking at what the result was. To like, I guess, back up your point there. Like you could signal fastball, and if you execute it the way you want to, that's what they're going to be looking for, not necessarily the result. The result's going to suck, but maybe, you know.
If Greinke can
But
get away with it throwing upper 80s, I feel like I could get away with it if I throw a fastball down the middle. Like, who cares? Like, I had
That's a
a,
fair
I
point.
had a summer ball coach that said, do that twice and signal fastball the third time and throw a curveball. And no one did that the entire summer, but I was close to signaling like fastball a couple times just because I'm like, let's just get this thing over with. Like, I really don't care.
was that in Clearwater or was that up in the Cape?
Oh, I was in the Cape. Like it was,
That was in the
he was,
Cape?
he was an older guy too. Like he was like, just do 2 fastballs and call, like throw another fastball sign and call a curveball. And I'm like, yeah, my catcher's gonna be pissed if I do that. So probably not.
What was it playing up there?
Oh, it's fantastic. And that was just after the summer that or after the year that like I had the yips all of like my sophomore year, fall 2018, spring 2019, like kind of like a pretty disappointing year for me, especially after like the big freshman year I had. And then surprisingly still like got an invite to go up to where I am. And it was the best summer of my life. Like I found the love of baseball again because I hated my life so much my sophomore year at Missouri just because of like I didn't know where I was throwing a baseball. I wasn't pitching that much. Like I said, like I was a midweek All-American that year. I strictly threw midweeks, like wasn't getting many chances. And like we were pretty solid pitching that year too. So I like can't complain about that, but like just the early struggles on the season. And I went through a 6-week stretch in the fall where I didn't get an out. And just like I felt like going like to the Cape, like found my love for baseball again, like just started doing stuff that I wanted to do, not trying to like attack locations, this and that. Like I got to just be myself. And it was the best 2 months I've ever had in baseball.
You would have gotten to do that would have been pre-COVID, right? So you got to do host families?
2019. Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've heard amazing things about that league. Obviously, you end up playing on like local high school fields, which probably isn't the
Dog
most-
shit fields. Dog shit fields.
No, it is,
There it
it
is.
is,
Yep.
yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, like you got like you have a $30,000 track man on the field, but the field itself is just terrible. Like half the
$20.
fields don't have lights. Like some of them, like the field is like 290 down the line, 350 to center. And then there's other ones where it's 290 to left, 430 to center, and it's like, all right.
This challenges you as a pitcher, right? Like I guess you can't really do much about it. You just kind of have to go about your business the same way, but like it's kind of a somewhat of a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, I will say the umpires were all like firefighters and like milkmen and stuff. So the zones were incredible.
I did not know. That's awesome.
Yeah, the
That's
umpires
awesome.
are
And they're
legit
just
umpires.
stepping into here's upper nines. Good luck.
Oh yeah, like it was. I remember my first time throwing there. Like I got a call 6 inches off the plate for strike one. I'm like, I'm gonna love this summer.
That's why it's pitchers league.
Oh, without a, I mean, yeah,
You got the
partially.
fucking you got the fucking post office guy behind the plate. That's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, that is true. But then you also have some dudes like Nick Gonzalez did not know how to get out that summer from New Mexico State. And like I can remember,
Oh yeah.
like we played against his team in the playoffs. We went over his stats, and like there's still dudes in the league that are just slugging over 1,000 on like every pitch, and it's like, all right, how the hell do we get this guy out? Like, so like there's definitely some hitters like that, but yeah, no, it's more of a pitchers league without a doubt.
You think I guess the evolution of the Cape, obviously you haven't been back since, but how do you think the evolution of the Cape is going to go with one, the Northwoods League expanding or continuing to expand, and two, the introduction of the draft league itself?
I still think it's going to be pretty big because I still feel like a lot of guys go there. And a big reason why so many scouts like going there, it's an hour and a half from the furthest part. So like you could go see 2 or 3 games a day as a scout, and like it's pretty easy to get across going to like all those games compared to in the Northwoods where you feel like you have like an 18-hour bus ride for like some places. So like I feel like that's still like the big reason why like it's still going to be like a notorious league, and the weather is just great up there. But I feel like it's going to be hard I feel like it'll stay the same. Because I mean, I know Northwoods has always been a league where it's like, let's get reps. It's what, 71 games in 74 days or something like that.
72 and 74, but yeah,
That's
it's ruthless.
yeah.
2-day
But
series.
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, for some dudes like that's awesome, I feel like. And that's
Yeah.
also just like dog days of summer, like, let me get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because another thing with the
Okay,
Cape
so
too.
I guess go ahead. No, go ahead, Trey.
No, yeah, like so like I played in the NECBL, if you knew what that was, playing out there. So like that league was deemed like this is the second Cape, I guess, or like this is like if the Cape's the big leagues, is like this is AAA in summer ball. But like the cool thing, like I don't think ever got like touched on, is like all these Cape teams. I know at least on Twitter it was a little bigger last year, where they're like they post the transactions, but these teams in the Cape would sign like 70 guys, and then put like a lot of guys on 2-week temps, and then it's like, okay, where does like this Power 5 freshman shortstop infielder, like where does he go play after he does his 2-week temp for all the guys like in the College World Series and all these regionals and stuff? So for us, it was like 1 week, it was like, oh, we just got 10 more guys that were all like cut from the Cape, essentially. And it's like, it makes our league better. And then if you look at like, again, what you said with the travel, it's like the NECBL has like, again, all in the Northeast. So it's like for those guys to either hop on a plane or get into a car, it's only an hour away, and then boom, you're still in that region for the summer. So it's not like you're having like you're from California, you go play in the Cape on a 2-week temp, and then you have no clue, and it's like, oh, I can just go there versus Texas. You know what I mean? Like it's just easier for everybody at that point.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like that was like because I was one of the 4 pitchers that was there from like day 1 of tryouts to the last game of the season. And like just seeing like how many guys like came in, like left, like it was insane. Like dudes hit their innings limits like week 3, and it's like, oh, they're gone. And like some dudes, like my roommate that I had there, my original roommate, threw twice during the week of tryouts. Like it was one of those things where every count's 1-1. He got 12 guys out and 12 hitters. Like it was just ground ball out, ground ball out. Here's a punch out, ground ball out, ground ball out. And it's like he didn't make the team. Like he actually had to go to a team. There's another place in Massachusetts in that league that he went to. It was like kind of the island. I forget what it's called, but like he was
Damn it, Martha's
Right?
Vineyard.
Yeah, he was in
Martha's
Martha's
Vineyard.
Because that was in our league, which is also like the coolest road trip I've ever had in my life playing baseball. Coolest by far ever, which also kind of sucked, but it was one of those where it was fun.
Yeah, but like he played there the entire summer. Now he's in AAA with the Yankees, knocking on the door, be a big leaguer. But it was insane of like they had to like cut kids that threw well. Like it was just mind blowing to me. It was like, how the hell did you not make this team? And like just seeing like there was a catcher that we had, threw out 2 guys, went 2 for 2 with a bomb. Next day, it's like, yeah, we don't got room for it anymore. Like it was crazy.
No, 100%. 100%.
I guess
Well,
we're kind of winding down here, so I'm going to wrap this up with one more question, kind of get into a conversation if we want to. Minor league coffee question of the episode. Go to minorleaguecoffee.com. Best cup of coffee you've ever made for yourself. Use code CURVE5 for 5% off. What are you looking forward to your first spring training? What are your expectations? And what are we doing this offseason to make the spring training the best, I guess best one yet? It's gonna be your first one, the best it can possibly be.
So first off, I should note and say I like my time more in season than off season. I know it's a bit different, but like I enjoyed my life way more in season than right now, just because I'm like pretty busy. Like I coach a team right now, 11U team. I do lessons and whatnot for kids. Then hold on, sorry, but I mean right now, like the biggest thing that like I'm really looking forward to spring training. Like if it was tomorrow, I'd be excited. Like I kind of wish I got invited to early camp for some of the new guys. Just because I would love to be there and just like get acclimated to everything. But so looking forward to that. And really the biggest thing, if I can just not have a dead zone fastball this year, that'd be fantastic.
Sick.
Dead zone fastball and command. Those are always the 2 things that I've been told those are my biggest weak points. So the better that I can not have either of those, bad command or a non-dead zone fastball, like that'd be that's really the only two things I'm looking forward. Like if I to really work on, just to kind of like have a short little answer there.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then another like little tangent spin-off thing is like that I always like asking guys that like play currently. Like, what are 3 things I guess that you do currently? Like it could be like a drill, something ability wise you hammer, or like something in the weight room. Like what is something that like Trey Dillard has to do day in, day out to like be you? It's like, okay, I gotta go hit, like I gotta do pivot picks, this variation. Like what are like 3 things that or in your everyday thing that make you better, or at least like a part of your routine?
I would say I have to do one thing every day that sucks. Usually it's either a cold plunge or a cold shower for me. That's one.
Big on that, yes.
Like I'm very big into like do something that sucks every single day. And like, no, like it's awful to go into a cold plunge, but it's like it's very gratifying. Number 2 is I meditate every single day. I'm on like if you guys know who Joe Dispenza is, I've been doing a lot of his meditations and kind of just manifesting the life that I want to live. So like those are the 2 non-negotiables that I do every single day. And third one, I mean, I don't want to like say anything in the training wise. I do stuff different every single day. And it's like I've kind of learned like you don't have to like, oh, I have to reverse lunge this, so I have to be this strong, or like I have to do this drill. But I guess like the third one is just like in some sort of way, like another one's journal. I journal every single day. What am I thinking? Yeah, journal. Those are like the 3 things that like I do on a daily basis. But like you like going back to the training thing, like I don't have to like I feel like I don't have to be lifting a house anymore. I feel like I don't have to move like the VBT thing anymore. Like I will still throw left-handed for shits and gigs, but other than that, like my training is like pretty simple and just sticking to the plan that I have with Dean. And it's really about it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to throw 88 from the left side for shits and gigs.
I mean, I have a blown out UCL on my left side, and my ulnar nerve is 1000% messed up.
Jesus.
But
Yeah,
wait, but what's the PR with the left hand? Because I feel like I've seen this.
I've pulled down 95 and I've hit 87 on a flat ground. I throw a better change up on my left side than I do on my right.
You're gonna break it out one time next year just for fun. Just low A game, 10-0. Hey, let's start throwing the lefty.
If they allow me to, it's actually funny. I had a bullpen with the Phillies this year when I got there, and we were waiting for like a couple people to be there. My catcher was there, TrackMan was set up, and I was like, well, let me see how my lefties look. And I like threw 5 throws, sat like 82, threw like a decent little sweeper. Like if I threw strikes and my elbow felt great, I could totally do it. Because I genuinely think like I could actually pick it up if I really, really tried to, but I don't have enough time, I don't think.
Is that something you?
Well, damn, we've been doing so good up until this
day, and like, because I mean, every facility guy probably has it where they're like, all right, I'm gonna pick up the black ball today with my left hand and let it eat just because I got nothing else to do. So it's like, is that something that like you've always had, or were you just like, not one day like, oh, it's there, like I know how to sync up, like?
Well, no, I was the kid that in 11U that threw, like, no exaggeration, I probably threw 250 innings as an 11-year-old. And I played wall ball every day at school. And I can remember my dad thought the great solution to was to tell me not to play wall ball. And I'm like, well, if I play left-handed, okay, do that. I picked it up literally throwing a tennis ball against the wall. And then all of a sudden I got to play enough games to make my Cal Ripken All-Star team when I'm 12. My dad gets me a left-handed glove, and it just goes from there. And I also am convinced my parents messed me up because my left-handed swing is better than my right-handed, and like I should not have picked up throwing left-handed as easy as I should have. Like I'm 1000% left-handed, but my parents made me right.
It's for a fun Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom and Dad. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for the terrible hip mobility, and thanks for not making me left-handed.
All right, Trey. Well, this has been great. We appreciate you jumping on. We are looking forward. I mean, if you're willing, we're looking forward to having you back on during the season. We want to follow your story. We want to see how your season's going. Obviously, dive into how things are going, how your body's feeling, stuff like that. Want to have you on a few more times during the season if that's something you'd be interested in. Like I said, man, we had a great time today. This has been outstanding.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome. I'm really honored that you guys had me on here today, and I'd absolutely love to. I mean, thank you guys so much, and I always wish you guys the best of luck for this upcoming season as well.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Well, we look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you again. We'll be in touch, man. We'll be in touch.
Y'all have a great one. Happy holidays to you guys.
Yeah, you too, man. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.